Senator, severe weather is top of mind for many of our viewers right now. The Trump administration, though, and the Department of Government Efficiency are implementing cuts that meteorologists warn might hurt forecasting. It eliminates jobs, cancels balloon launches. I understand you didn't vote on any of these specific cuts, but do you think they're wise given the role that forecasting can play in helping us prepare for disasters?
Well, I'm a big fan of meteorologists. I've been watching Channel 5 since I was a little kid. So thanks, even when Bob Richards was a meteorologist back in St. Louis. So I appreciate the forecasting. I think all this doom and gloom and political forecasting, though, is off base. There's a lot of reporting, not you, of course, Mark, who create these stories about these cuts that are going to have all these undefined problems, and they just don't happen. The truth is we're trying to get back to pre-pandemic level spending, where we were spending $4 trillion just back in 2019. We now spend $7 trillion 5 years later, and we take in $5 trillion. So I think these efforts are to cut out waste and fraud and abuse and to right-size government. So I don't think it's going to impact at all our ability to forecast weather as accurate as Channel 5 often is.
All right, I'll pass that note along to our weather team. We've got some political forecasting, some weather forecasting, now some economic outlook if we can. You supported President Trump's tariffs on Canada in a vote Wednesday night, but more broadly, the global trade war has contributed to rising costs, or soon could. Economists are projecting price hikes on everyday items like electronics, phones, laptops, cars. The stock market and the dollar are right now taking hits as well. Republicans are publicly acknowledging there will be short-term economic pain, but just how long will that pain last? And when do you expect prices to come down?
Well, I reject the premise. I actually think that we're entering a new phase of prosperity in this country because for the first time now we have a president that understands what Americans have known for a very long time is that we're getting ripped off around the world. Really what we're saying is we're going to treat you like you treat us. I think people have been shocked to find out the trade barriers that exist for our farmers and ranchers across the world. They've been shocked to find out that you can't sell an American car in Europe. And from my perspective, which goes a little bit deeper here, growing up in a working class neighborhood in North County, a lot of the jobs that my friends and family and neighbors had, they're just gone. Since NAFTA, 90,000 factories are gone. These jobs have been sent overseas, and the elites that have made these forecasts about how wealthy everybody's going to become have been wrong time and time again because they believe in this globalist agenda. I don't represent the international economic order. I represent people in Missouri who want good paying jobs. There's no reason in the world, Mark, why we can't have advanced manufacturing. It's one of the things we're fighting for with being a defense tech capital. There's no reason in the world why we can't sell our stuff around the world. I will also tell you that the market is responding in the sense that $5 trillion worth of investment is coming in the first 100 days. Apple's going to build their stuff here. Honda's going to now build their stuff here. Mercedes-Benz is going to build their stuff here. The chips factory from Taiwan, they're going to build their stuff here. NVIDIA, they're going to build their high-quality chips here, not overseas. So I think you're going to see investment in this country, and we're going to be an economic powerhouse. But the days of us being taken advantage of, I think, are over. The other thing I'll say here is you have to take this trade policy also as part of a larger portfolio of the things that we're doing. Making these tax cuts permanent, that'll be really important. Providing middle-class tax relief, that'll be important. Regulatory reform, being energy dominant, having a secure border where our taxpayer dollars aren't going to illegal immigrants. I think if you put all that together, along with a president who's standing up for American workers and saying we're not going to get ripped off anymore, that's the formula for success long term.
I hope to ask you about those tax cuts here in a moment, but first I want to ask you about these incidents where federal agents have recently detained multiple people here legally in the U.S. They include a PhD student in Massachusetts, a Columbia grad whose wife is 8 months pregnant. They've spoken out against Israel's actions in Gaza in protest on college campuses. There's another Maryland father in a separate case who was deported due to what the Trump administration now calls an administrative error. Does the First Amendment's protection of speech and association extend to all legal residents? And do you believe this administration fully upholds due process rights?
I do. I think a lot of the examples that you're giving, though, are much more complicated than you've laid out. When people are here as a guest, they're not citizens. They're not citizens of this country. And their temporary visas or their guest permits or whatever can be revoked. And people can be sent away. And that's what Marco Rubio is doing. He's saying people have lied on their applications about what their activities are. I believe people can speak their mind. There's no question about that. But you don't get to shut down buildings. You don't get to build encampments and limit other people's access to those buildings and hold classes. You don't get to do those things. So I think that really what we're getting at here is a mass deportation effort when we had 15 to 20 million people come here illegally, including a million people, at least a million people who are here who are hardened criminals. And so if you're part of a gang, if you're part of MS-13, if you've been terrorizing people and cutting their fingers off and raping and murdering people, you're going to go. And that's been the focus of these efforts. So if there are individual cases that need to be addressed, I think this administration has shown they're willing to do it. But I also think the press is tripping all over itself to find some example out there that ultimately, upon further investigation, turns out not to be true, including, I think maybe one of the examples you're given here where the father, he was portrayed as a father who was actually a member of a violent gang. Those people need to be deported, and the American people support that.
Okay, well, we'll dig into that in a moment, but I want to move on to your tax cut question. You promised that you would support and defend the Senate's institutional norms, including the filibuster, but Republican leaders in the Senate right now are considering bypassing the parliamentarian to push through these tax cuts with just a simple majority. Do you oppose that move because it would be a violation of Senate norms, or would you support making an exception here to get around that budget process?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. Actually, that's not going to be an issue from a procedural perspective since we're taking up the House bill. That scenario that you're referring to just isn't going to happen. So there's no bypassing the parliamentarian. There's nothing like that that's happening. It is true under law that that Republicans and Democrats have used before in this reconciliation process. It is a simple majority. So that's not changing any norm. That's not blowing up the filibuster. I think the Democrats are the ones that are on record to say if they ever had the majority, they'd get rid of it. We're not getting rid of the filibuster. It's protected under Republican majority. So we're going to operate within the rules. We're going to move forward with an agenda that only requires 51 votes. My hope is that some Democrats would actually come along. But given the focus of their party right now on real fringe issues, I'm not hopeful. But maybe they'll come around to providing middle-class tax relief, making sure that there's enough money to deport hardened criminals, and making sure we can fund our military. Maybe they will, but I'm not going to hold my breath.